Viewer's notice. On a quiet night, 5 friends gather round the table to journey through the legendary Dungeons and Dragons campaign, Tyranny of Dragons. This video is an AI-generated audio-visual recap of the sessions as written by a character, Dimble Folkor Spark, in his diary.
Dimble Folkor Spark Personal Diary Entry, 8th of Elent 1489 DR, title, Paths United. I have been in the city of Baldur's Gate for a couple of months now, overseeing repairs on a diamond crystal cutter in one of my smaller factories. Preparations were well underway for the grand opening of my third store, Spark's Special Wonders, a place devoted to appliances and enchantments meant to ease the burdens of everyday life. One of my colleagues burst through the shop floor and ran toward the back, shouting my name and waving frantically about an urgent message. He pressed a sealed letter into my hands, its wax marked with Lord Neverember's crest, the Lord of Neverwinter, for whom I had designed several defensive weapons and strategic systems years ago. I opened it and immediately caught sight of a single word that made my pulse quicken. Greenest. Just like Palarandus told me. A transport was already en route, travelling from Neverwinter through Waterdeep, scheduled to arrive in Baldur's Gate by morning. It would take me directly to Greenest. The request itself came from Lord Nighthill of Greenest. Immediate assistance required. Dragons had been sighted. I wasted no time. I gave instructions to my colleagues and took a carriage to the 3 Old Kegs Inn, where I had been staying. I packed my travelling forge, a small cutter, anvil, and furnace, each collapsing neatly into a compact box no larger than 30 by 30 centimetres. Then I turned to my armour, a shadow of matte black mithril plates waiting to be awakened. With a thought, the armour unfolded to cover my arms, legs, chest and back, each segment locking into place with craftsman's precision. Mithril had been a difficult choice. Costly, temperamental, unforgiving, worth every sleepless night. Light enough to move without a whisper, sturdy enough to turn blade or spell when it truly matters. A heavy belt circled my hips, crowded with tools, weapons and defensive contraptions, folded steel, alchemical vials and inventions that had yet to earn proper names. The suit was good, better than good. Still, my mind wandered toward improvements not yet built, reinforced joints, faster deployment, stronger shielding. Always more to do. Some people pray to gods for guidance. I built mine. As I considered the suit, its flaws, its promise, a memory cut sharply through my focus. Palarandusk. The image of his face was soft and welcome, though there was little time left. Do not worry, my friend. I am on my way. Morning arrived wrapped in storm. Dark, heavy clouds drowned Baldur's Gate beneath relentless rain. Even daylight could not fully breach the cloud cover, leaving the streets dim, eerily hollow. The constant downpour muted sound itself, compressing the city into a single, endless roar of water on stone. The letter instructed me to wait outside the southern gate for a man named Andrew. He would be travelling by carriage, stocked with provisions and accompanied by an escort. I kept close to the buildings as I walked, hoping for shelter, watching as the city's drainage struggles valiantly and fails. I may have overpacked, I thought, as I stepped through the southern gate. A carriage stood nearby, barely sheltered beneath the stable's roof. The horses stamped nervously, their breath steaming in the cold rain. A tall, slender man moved among them, murmuring reassurances. He wore simple robes beneath a weathered leather coat, long and darkened by years of use. A wide-brimmed hat sat low on his head, its treated leather causing rain to bead and run harmlessly away. I stepped closer. "Are you Andrew by any chance?" I called. The rain swallowed my words. After shouting several times in vain, I finally tugged on the man's coat. He nearly leapt out of his skin, startling the horses further. "Are you going to Greenest?" I yelled.
"Not until this blasted rain settles down,"
he shouted back. "Where is your escort?" I wondered.
"Behind you,"
he answered, pointing his finger behind me. I turned. A towering figure stood clad in dark steel blue plate, etched with weathered sigils. The warrior stood like a living bulwark against the storm-dark sky. His armour bore the scars of countless battles, scratches dulled by time rather than polished away, suggesting duty carried longer than pride. A heavy cloak hung from his shoulders, muted and practical, weighed down by rain. His helm fully enclosed his face, crowned with a modest crest. The visor was narrow and severe, offering no warmth or mercy, only resolve. Whatever oath or faith he served demanded anonymity and sacrifice. In his gauntleted hand rested a long trident, its tines worn but keen, more symbol than ornament. A shield hung close, and his stance was steady and unyielding, the posture of one who does not retreat, only advances or stands fast. There was no obvious divine radiance about him, no glowing sign of blessing. His presence was quieter than that, and far more unsettling. The sheer size of him caused me to step back into the coachman.
"Are we taking children on this trip?"
He yelled, no doubt remarking on my gnomish height. I stepped forward before the coachman could answer. "Name's Spark, friend, and that trident is astonishing. Do you mind if I take a closer look at it at an opportune moment, of course?" In response, he swung the trident's tip directly in front of my face. I could see every prong, every dent and scar earned in battle. He expected me to flinch. I did not. My PC tracked his movement instantly, feeding me data despite the miserable conditions. In a single smooth motion, he withdrew the trident, crouched, and removed his helm. A clean-shaven half-elf stared back at me. His skin bore the marks of years spent at sea. Small scars traced his face, quiet testimony to a seasoned warrior.
"I am Nox,"
he said as he stood.
"Prophet Paladin of Cord, who blesses us with rain on this beautiful morning. Rejoice, boy, for I am here to escort you safely to Greenest."
"Oh, Palarandus, give me strength," I replied. "Could you ask Cord to tone it down a little?" Without hesitation, he pressed the trident to his chest and began to pray, thanking his god for the rain and asking for safe passage onward. Less than 10 seconds passed. The storm softened into steady rain, then into a gentle trickle. Soon after, the first pale light broke through the clouds. In disbelief, I turned back to the coachman and confirmed this was indeed the carriage bound for Greenest. The grouchy man introduced himself properly as Andrew and produced a parchment.
Name?
"Dimble Folkor," I said, shaking his hand. "But you can call me Spark." As we shook hands, I left him a small invention of mine, a simple metal lighter engraved with Spark's special wonders. If you ever need to start a quick campfire, this will help. And for any other day-to-day commodities or appliances, please visit our stores in Baldur's Gate, Thimble, or Neverwinter.
Ooh, interesting. But do you have the letter?
Of course it's here somewhere. As I reach for my inner coat pocket, my chest plate opens, making just enough room for my arm to pass through. Here it is.
Well then, that is settled. Put your stuff in the back and help us rein in the horses.
We harnessed the horses and slowly set off toward Greenest. Along the way, Nox mentioned he had once been a high-ranking officer aboard a naval vessel. We took the tradeway southward, the road bending gradually toward the shadowed breadth of the Cloakwood and the distant walls of Candlekeep. Even from afar, Candlekeep commands reverence. Its pale stone towers rise from the coastline like a scholar's fortress, austere and immovable. The largest repository of lore and written knowledge in all the realms. I recall a story my mother once told me of that place. To gain entry into its halls of wisdom, a visitor must present a written work not already in the possession of the monks. Knowledge in exchange for knowledge. No coin, no title. Only thought made tangible. As we passed at a distance, I found myself marvelling at the great walls surrounding that sanctuary of parchment and ink. How many answers lie within those stones? How many questions? Half a day passed before we reached Beregost. Beregost is modest in scale, some 40 principal buildings clustered along the tradeway, yet it bears the steady pulse of a town that survives on movement. Its grandest structure is the Song of the Morning, a fortified temple complex dedicated to Lathander. Beregost thrives on trade, caravanners, adventurers, merchants, those bound south toward Ammon, Tether and Kalimshan, pass through regularly. It is a place of temporary stories, not permanent ones. We did not linger. We passed through swiftly, avoiding attention and unnecessary delay. At the edge of town, outside the Jovial Juggler, we halted briefly to water and feed the horses. The tavern's sign creaked in the breeze, its paint chipped by years of dust and travel. The smell of ale and cooked meat drifted faintly from its doorway. While Nox tended to the horses with surprising gentleness for a man encased in steel, Andrew and I spread a map across the rear board of the carriage. Inked routes branched like veins. One path would bring us to Greenest before sundown, provided nothing delayed us. We needed to turn toward the edge of the werewoods and press east. Just as we prepared to move, a man stepped out of the Jovial Juggler and immediately fixed his attention on us. He was a stroke of vibrant life against the muted greens and greys of the road. Lean, of average human height, yet somehow filling the space he occupied from the wild crown of his dark, untamed hair to his road-worn boots, which seemed almost reluctant to gather dust. His posture was not that of a man waiting, it was that of a man arriving. He wore his history in colour, a vibrant waistcoat layered over a loose shirt, fabrics that had known many suns and storms, yet retained their boldness like a flower blooming defiantly in desert heat. His dark hair fell just past his ears, thick and unrestrained. Though I could not discern the colour of his eyes at that distance, they held the unmistakable glitter of one who trades in observation, and perhaps secrets. There was a roguish charm set into the line of his jaw. A half-smile lingered at the corner of his mouth, as though the next jest or lament was already formed and waiting to be released. He was not singing, but the promise of it was absolute.
"Gentlest of men, such a peculiar group you are,"
he began smoothly.
"I can see the only thing you lack is entertainment."
He offered a shallow bow.
"My name is Mukta, a humble bard, a man of the people, a Faerunian nomad. If I may ask, are you travelling east? I hear there is coin to be made in that direction."
Nox took one look at him, smirked beneath his helm and replied,
Go play your tune somewhere else.
From atop the coachman's bench, Andrew rose and addressed him more practically.
Aye, we are heading east. If you're after coin, you may serve as escort and guard until we reach Greenest. But mark me, any funny business and my plated friend here will turn you into worm food.
Without hesitation.
Nox added, stepping closer. Andrew eyed Mukta up and down.
Although you don't strike me as someone who can fight.
Mukta raised a finger dramatically.
"Listen, listen. When you find yourselves in a situation where swords and magic can no longer save you, you will be grateful my vocabulary and accordion are aboard. Now, allow me to present my longest companion."
He drew from his back a magnificent box-shaped universe, his accordion. It was beautiful and battered, crafted of blue-stained wood and scrimshaw ivory. The leather bellows were a concertina of stories waiting to unfold. His hands, one resting across pearl buttons, the other poised over the treble keys, settled upon it with the intimacy of years spent beside campfires and border roads. It was not merely an instrument, it was his heart, worn on the outside. He stretched the bellows slowly and began to sing. He sang of a young man bidding farewell to his mother before setting out to discover the world. The melody painted scenes in the air between us. The lyrical prowess carried depth and significance far beyond its short span. The rhythm was steady and reassuring, plucked precisely for that moment. A song of beginnings, a song of uncertainty, a song born from experience, perfection. We stood in silence when he finished. Then, promptly, he extended his coin pouch toward us, a bright smile spreading across his face, white teeth catching the light of the morning sun. It became immediately clear that no favour from this man would ever be freely given.
12 gold pieces, thank you,"
he declared. The number left us in profound disbelief, and yet standing before us was undoubtedly one of the finest songwriters of our age. Alas, as with many great artists, he appeared doomed by the greed of his own nature. I could have told him he was mad. I would have been correct. Instead, I paid him in full. All 12 gold pieces. Partly to test the depth of his thirst, a decision I suspect will one day bite me rather severely. Mukta did not even count the coins. He simply closed the pouch, bowed deeply, and strode to Andrew to sign paperwork securing his payout upon arrival in Greenest. We finished our preparations and set out once more, toward new beginnings and uncertainty, with one additional companion. As we neared the werewoods, our little troop moved steadily. Nox kept his gaze fixed upon Mukta, with the intensity of a predator studying potential prey. Mukta, entirely undeterred, perched atop the rear of the carriage and began recounting his past. A nomadic family, he said. Traders in restored items, jewellery, artefacts, moving from town to town, scraping and reselling wares. Yet his heart beat to a different rhythm, and now his earlier song made perfect sense. Even Nox eventually relaxed, recalling the melody, and engaged him in conversation. I joined Andrew at the front. It was then, near the edge of the werewoods, that we spotted a silhouette upon the road ahead. Large, unmoving. We approached cautiously. As the distance closed, the shape resolved into a mountain of a man. Broad as an oak trunk built of corded muscle and old scars, he stood draped in a mantle of thick wolf fur. The wolf's head formed a cowl over his own, jaws framing his brow, glassy eyes fixed forward as though the predator's spirit still hunted through him. Beneath the pelt his chest was bare, scarred, weathered, powerful. A leather harness crossed his torso, securing armor plates and gear. At his waist hung a reinforced belt adorned with pouches and iron rings that clinked softly. Bracers wrapped his forearms, scarred from blade impacts. On his back rested a massive battle axe, engraved with swirling patterns, its blade still dark from recent hunt. Beneath the wolf skull his eyes burned with cold, calculating intensity. Not a mindless brute. There was thought there, old grief, old rage, discipline. He did not look like a man seeking battle. He looked like one who had already decided how it would end. Our carriage slowed when he raised a hand.
"Friend, a help?"
His deep voice carried softly in the noon wind. Nox shifted subtly into a concealed guard stance, trident angled casually downward, shield within reach, relaxed in posture, lethal in readiness.
What kind of help?
Nox asked, feigning dullness. The giant replied in a deep but steady voice.
"Me find greenest, me find man. You show path."
I disembarked and stepped closer. Nox stiffened visibly, but my instincts told me this man truly sought help. "My name is Spark," I said, pointing to my chest, then toward him. "And you are?"
"You Spark, me Wulfgar,"
he replied.
"Me seek greenest. Spark help?"
"Maybe, Wulfgar. Will you hurt us? Or the man you seek?"
"No hurt, me want learn."
Well then, you are in luck.
Mukta called from atop the carriage, rising behind a crate.
We are heading to Greenest.
Wulfgar knelt.
"Wulfgar keep Spark tribe safe. Spark take Wulfgar to greenest."
"Spark will take you to greenest, friend," I replied. Nox burst into laughter, dropping his guard entirely.
We don't need Wulfgar to keep us safe.
Wulfgar tilted his head.
"Man hide in iron suit. Man scared."
The entire carriage erupted in laughter, all except Nox. After some further exchange of pride and playful provocation between the two warriors, the carriage resumed its pace. The afternoon sun began its slow descent as each wheel turn carried us closer to our destination. I remember calculating the remaining distance to Greenest when Wulfgar pointed silently ahead. Smoke, plumes rising in the distance. 10 minutes, he said, fast pace. No one spoke, only a shared nod. We drove the horses hard. It took but 5 minutes to crest the final hill, and there before us lay Greenest, burning,